Hello and welcome to the first ever podcast, my podcast. I just realized I didn't come up with a name for the show. Well, I guess, that causes a lot of overthinking. I think it happens often with everybody. You do something, or you want to do something, but you don't get to eventually start because it's all this overthinking that's happening in your head. You are like, no, I can't start because I don't know the name of the show. Ooh. And you're like, oh, I can't do this because I haven't figured this out. Oh, I don't know how to do this, so I'm not going to do this. But that's all silly. I think, you are going to figure it out as you go along. It's the same with walking. Imagine figuring out walking and then be like, okay, I figured it out. Let's walk. Then you fall because you have to learn as you go along. You fall, and then the next time you're like, okay, when I did this, I fell. Then try something different. Then, you maybe make another 2 steps. 1, 2, boom, then you fall again. And then you get up and you're like, okay, that didn't work. Let's see. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? You kind of just evaluate it. So if there's someone out there watching, not that I expect anyone to watch or to listen to the show at all. If there is, somebody, then I think constructive feedback is welcome. Constructive feedback is welcome. The reason why I use the term constructive feedback and not constructive criticism is because I think that term is misinterpreted often. And I think feedback, especially constructive feedback, really specifies what is expected here, is that you need to provide me with feedback if you want to, of course. You need to provide me with that feedback, and then I can use that feedback to improve the show constantly. The show is in its infancy. This is episode 1, and I don't even know the name of that show. But I just figured, do it. Just do it. But, you go along and it improves over time. There'll be things that I'm going to look back on this and learn from. And hopefully, if there's an audience, I'm hoping that there will be, that constructive feedback can be used to further construct this show and help it to grow and develop. And that's basically that. And the reason why I decided to do this was just because I talk a lot. I guess I just have a lot to say, and we all know people who talk a lot, and maybe you might think, nah, this guy talks too much, but at the end of the day, if I have the words in my head, man, then it needs to come out. Otherwise, I will maybe explode, and I think it's important to find a place to let it out. And especially if it's in the case of nobody's really listening, and that's kind of creates a comfort for me. It's like if I tell myself, okay, nobody's listening, you can say whatever you like, you can, explore your thoughts, explore your feelings, discuss how your day has gone, how your week has gone, how, experiences, tell stories, and just figure all that out, because in a way I'm getting to know myself better. And not just that, I'm also, clearing some stuff up in terms of my own psyche and in my own life, being able to sort through the mess and find the real crux of the matter, whatever that may be. So putting it in my head that nobody's listening means that, it really takes the pressure off. It really takes the pressure off. And for me, that, it feels very comfortable. I think if I were to now expect there to be this audience and this huge audience of people watching or listening, then it would create so much pressure that it would prevent me from even starting up, And it is the 5th of February. My plan was to start this podcast in January already, maybe a month ago. Yeah, I was going to start. I was like, full force, let's do it, But because of all the overthinking and all the, like I said earlier, the feelings of, I don't know, like, how am I going to do this? How's it going to work, And I just decided, you know what, forget it, man. Just do it. Just do it. Yeah, so I don't know if is that a good introduction. Doesn't matter, nobody's listening. but but yeah, so I think if there are listeners, what you can expect from me is just me sharing myself. I'm just sharing myself. I'm thinking out loud, which is something I think more people can benefit from. It can be considered a form of therapy for me. A lot of things happen in our lives and in our day and in our thoughts, and sometimes it's just nice to speak it out into the void, even if nothing is coming back. It's out there, you've heard it, you've thought it, and after that it's just up to you to do something about that. But sometimes all you need is to really just let it out, whether you're gushing over something amazing or you're venting over something frustrating or upsetting. It's important for you to do it anyways. I think we should kick the myth that you're not allowed to complain. They call it complaining, but I think for the most part we're just talking. You're just letting it out. Otherwise it's like it's gonna sit there in your head. It's gonna bother you. It needs to go somewhere, and maybe this is just a way of throwing it out there, and maybe what I think and feel relates to what you might think and feel, and even better so, because then we sort of connect in a way that maybe wasn't possible 10, 15 years ago. Most people's source of entertainment or really connection with the world at large is through television, and what a narrow bandwidth television offers. There's only a certain amount of channels, and each of those channels are only showing a certain amount of things in the day. Like this hour needs to be this, and most of the time that's really entertainment. But then when you get to the news, now you see the world, and it's like, if you just watch that, the world is falling apart, everything is in flames, and everything is being destroyed, and people are in trouble, people are dying, the world is ending, and that might be how you feel just watching the news. But when you actually are able to expand your perspective, expand your view, you are able to actually see, oh wow, the world is actually a beautiful place. There are great people in it. There are beautiful places to explore. There are wonderful experiences that might be had, and you would not be able to see that if you were just focused on the small area of focus, and I think a lot of us can, I guess, benefit, and that's what I'm trying to do here is benefit from zooming out, starting with my own perspective, but then zooming out further so that I can explore every other or almost every other perspective that I am able to explore, because that will allow me to gain insight into how the human mind works, and that's an interesting thing for me. But I think I also feel like I'm rambling a bit. Where was I? I was saying what to expect. Sorry, that happens. That you could probably expect that to happen a lot, where I will just go on a tangent and then not be able to find my way back. But it's early days. Who knows how it might turn out eventually. But yeah, some stuff about me. I guess the main thing about me is that I'm a musician. I am a musician. I guess I'd like to think of myself as a serious musician. And what I mean by that is just that I practice a lot. Like I spend 2 to 3 hours on the piano almost every day. Weekends are a bit of a challenge not to practice, just because there's football, and there's motorsport, and there's activities that you do. You go out with friends Friday night, and then Saturday morning you are exhausted. Let's just leave it there, exhausted. But for me that doesn't happen too often. I'm not that much of a social person anymore. I do enjoy social interactions, but I don't seek them out anymore, simply because you have to be selective about your company. And I think the people you choose to spend time with become a reflection of who you are. And if you spend your time around people who constantly want to go out and, drink and that's just the only thing to look forward to throughout your week or throughout your month, it's dull, to be honest. It might seem fun and vibrant, but for me it's dull. I think maybe I've done too much of that earlier in my life, and now I feel that that idea is not as enticing as it used to be. But with that being said, I still do enjoy social interaction, just not in the form that it used to be. I think for me, ideally would be, just you and a few friends, and by a few I mean 7, 8, 9, 10, in that neighborhood, not too crazy. And it's just very conversation based. There will be music playing and some refreshments, some beverages, of course, but nobody's getting too wild, nobody's overdoing it. And the central point of everything is conversations, and it's not one person conversating with everybody the way that I'm doing now, if there are listeners, which I don't expect there to be. Then that would be perfect. It's more like everybody speaking to each other, we're sharing stories, talking nonsense. And talking nonsense is really an awesome thing. And I think, if I'm thinking about stuff that listeners can expect, I guess it's also about talking nonsense. On Friday, I attended a housewarming, just a small gathering, light festivities. And one of the topics that we spoke about was just the dishes. Like, how do you do the dishes? What is your system of doing the dishes? And it's obviously a topic that has no point whatsoever except to get your mind off all the seriousness of life. I think the fact that life is serious makes it really difficult not to take things seriously. There's a lot of people who are advanced in their years and very wise, and they'll say, don't take life so seriously. But it's difficult because there is a lot about life that is serious, and I guess that's why they say that. You're constantly faced with serious things. You have to make decisions. You have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you have to do if you want to achieve an objective or to provide for your children and your wife, or to provide for yourself, for your survival. And with all of that happening in your life, it's like you need something to just take your mind off of that. Because there are times that your mind needs to be on those things, absolutely, but I don't think your mind needs to be there constantly. That's how people get depressed and anxious and stressed. It's just because you have no outlet, and I guess for me this is also kind of an outlet. I do have quite a few outlets. Like I said, I'm a musician, and playing music for me is just a very, you could say, therapeutic activity. Sometimes I engage in a creative effort where I'm trying to take a piece of music, normally like a hymn. I love hymns. Oh man, I absolutely love hymns. Just a simple 4-part harmony, and and then you take that and you try to turn it into something a bit more. You write for a choir with an orchestra, maybe a soloist in there, piano. You just try and put different ideas together, and even if it ends up being a total flop, I think it's quite a therapeutic process to involve yourself in something creative. And it doesn't, for me it's music, but for you it could be drawing a picture, like sketching something, and even if you have no idea how to sketch, just do it. Because if you're gonna now learn how to sketch, well, geez, at which point do you enjoy yourself? But if it is something worthwhile, if you feel like, hey, I should I might have some skill here, some ability, then you can really, develop yourself. And I think the pursuit of anything that causes some development within you is, I believe, worthwhile. Anything that requires effort, something that I take very much seriously when it comes to creative endeavor, or anything well done, is that nothing well done is insignificant, and whether that's just for you or whether it's for those who support you, those who are cheering you on, or even those who would hate to see you succeed, for them that's not insignificant, so I think that provides a lot of fulfillment. But yeah, I guess another outlet for me is also exercise. I think that I sort of have a proclivity towards being anxious and being depressed, without doing any sort of exercise. Then you're really quickly on my way to that space, to that dark place, and it's not productive, it's not helpful, it is an illness. And if this is what I need to do, if I need to exercise every day, if I need to experience that soreness and experience the exhaustion involved and the strain involved, then if that is the sacrifice I have to make in order to have good mental health, then it's worth it. Honestly, then it's worth it. And I don't think you need to be diagnosed with depression or anxiety or who knows what else you might be, sitting with. Everybody's got something, Everybody's got a ism or a disorder or a, this and that and this and that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be diagnosed, because I think, with 8 billion humans on this planet, is a very limited amount of categories to really fit people into when it comes to mental health issues, But there are fortunate ones who don't experience any sort of mental health problems, and those people for me are quite fortunate. But I think in life, there's stress. In life, there are reasons to be anxious. In life, there are things that just, bring you down. And I think that's normal. And I think what needs to happen, that is sort of like a impetus really to overcome that, because if you don't have any strife or any struggle, what is there gonna be to overcome? And exercise, you create the struggle and the overcoming in the same process. And once you're done, once you're like, wow, I just did 100 sit-ups or 100 squats or 100, I don't do any of that, by the way. I think I can do 100 push-ups, but I have to split it up in 25. 25 times 4, that's me in the mornings. And sometimes I just do 75, because then that last 25 is like, I can't do this, But exercise is a good outlet for me, and I think that we kind of, how can I say, it's underrated. Exercise is underrated. It's one of the most underrated things. And I remember reading an article, I'm not sure, I'd like to cite it because this is going out to the internet. But if you find such an article, feel free to put it in the description, or rather in the comments for someone to benefit from. But I read this article, I don't really remember what publication it was, but they were talking about the fact that exercise, especially weight training, exercise is more effective than therapy, And obviously that doesn't apply for everything. If you have a serious mental health issue that needs to be treated with medication, you seriously need to do that rather, But I think everybody can benefit from exercise. I think the reason why we're living in such a world where most people are unhappy isn't because of circumstance. because there are a lot of people who have great circumstances but are still very unhappy. I just think that we all need to get outside. We all need to run around. We all need to be kids sometimes again, Like, look how happy kids are when they get to do that. That's like the best thing ever for them. It's like, yes, we're going outside. We're going to play, And that creates this joy, excitement. And why is it that these little humans get excited for that, but we see it as, I must be outside, it's so hot, it's so windy, it's so dusty, it's so man, I used to play in the rain. Obviously my parents would not be happy at all about that, but man, it rains and you're like, I'm not going inside, it's raining, I'm playing, there's gonna be mud is the most fun thing, and I think part of the reason why the world is so angry with each other is just because we don't play, man. Just play. Go kick a ball around. Just go run around. Go mess around in the sand. I used to, like, when I was a kid, me and my friends would, like, every day after school, I wouldn't even do homework, to be honest. I would say, no, I did my homework, but nah. Almost never have I done homework. But if you're a kid and listening to this, you should do your homework. But for me, it's like me and my friends immediately after school get home, change quickly, eat something as fast as you can, and then take your cars. Like, you see these Hot Wheels here. When I was a kid, I used to have a whole bunch of cars, and then we would like make these paths in the sand. All these little paths, and we'd like build bridges with like wooden, like we'd put like a box or something, or like a cardboard box, or some sticks or some stones, and then you pack it with some wet soil, and then that's your bridge. And then you've got a whole garage. Like, there's the garage, there's the hospital. The garage is your house basically, because you are a car when you're that age, And then you'd have a whole setup. Okay, that's the garage, and that's like your restaurant, because that's where you have your food, which is petrol. And then you have like the mechanic, and that's your hospital, because you're a car. You need to get fixed there at the hospital, the mechanic. And then and then you just have, and it's really more about the driving around. So you make all these intricate paths and roads and intersections and everything. And man, that was fun. That was truly fun, and I would do that outside, and I would lay just here on the dirt, just playing with my cars, and my clothes would be dirty, obviously. But nowadays you see kids, like, everybody's clean, man. And why? Because you just want to swipe through TikTok, and I don't know what else kids do, to be honest. When I look at kids, that's all I think about. I'm like, okay, now that is someone who's entertained by TikTok, and I'll give it to them. TikTok is entertaining. I found myself quite often, to be honest, just opening the app and then watching a few videos, and then you look up and it's dark and 2 hours have passed, and maybe the world has ended, but you wouldn't know because you were stuck in this app. And I do get annoyed with myself about that. I don't mean to get fired up, but man, it's like, I'm not anti-technology, but there's just some stuff that I think is really more dangerous than what we think it is. So yeah, then we have it. I think exercise, definitely underrated. And certain technologies definitely overrated. Go play outside, man. Go play outside. If you're a grown-up, if you're a child, just go do something outside. 2 weeks ago, me and my girlfriend, we went up Naval Hill. So here in Bloemfontein, which is where I'm from, Bloemfontein, South Africa, there is this huge hill. I don't even know if it's a hill. It's not a mountain. It's not a mountain, but it's not a hill. For me, a hill is like just a little grassy hump. This is like a huge, a significant geological shape and geological structure. And every weekend there are people, maybe not every weekend, maybe every day, there are people who jog up this thing, and it's quite an effort, But yeah, 2 weeks ago, she and I, we walked up there, and it was so interesting. Like we just walked, but there's people from in all shapes and sizes there. There are people who are clearly, just need some time outside. You see, it's like just some person that looks really stressed out, and this is now their chance to just unwind, just be by themselves, maybe put some headphones in and just walk up this hill and then come back down. And it's really like a road. It's quite a windy path to get to the top, and then once you're at the top, you're rewarded with a beautiful view of the city, and and that's quite awesome. And then there's some people who look like serious athletes. Like these people look like marathon runners. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like those super skinny, really like it's just muscle. It's just muscle, but it's not like thick, strong. The Rock. It's more like, geez, I don't even know. Like it's more like just something from a horror movie, to be honest. And those people, they look strong, but they're so thin, and it's probably just because they run. People who like run that much, I would expect that there isn't any fat in your body, and there's also not going to be any sort of hypertrophic development. It's all going to be what do they call it? Fast twitch or slow twitch muscle. I don't know. You figure that one out. I don't know, but yeah, then it's those people, and they don't even run up the whole thing. They like take a section, like a really steep section, and they're like, pop, 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 pop. They run up and then they walk down again to the same spot where they started, and they go, that's what they do. And I just think like, wow, like you guys are clearly preparing for something. But we had a nice time. We just walked up there. It's a nice opportunity to get away from screens. I think I know I spend too much time on a screen. I really do. And for me, too much time just means when I'm having breakfast, I'm watching Netflix. When I'm working, like when I'm busy developing content or making whatever admin stuff I need to take care of for church and all that, like you're staring at a screen. When you're having lunch, once again you're staring at a screen, watching TV, and then you're back to work, and then you again staring at a screen. And I can't think that would be good for us. I just wonder, what are the effects gonna be? What about those people who like babies now who have been born into this world of such technological sophistication, and having to be surrounded with screens? There's a TV, there's a laptop, there's a phone, there's a tablet, and I just can't help but wonder what will be the psychological effects, long-term psychological effects of being exposed to the sort of light, and not just the light, but like the content itself. Who knows how early you actually start retaining information, Because one thing I know for sure, when it comes to science, there's always these discoveries that are made after a major discovery has been made, Like people will think, oh, you know what, butter is bad for you. It's really bad for your health to have butter, and then that's now the general consensus among scientists. And then someone figures out something different, and they're like, you know what, guys, butter is actually really good for your health, especially for your heart, but don't take too much because then it's unhealthy. And then you're like, okay, now I'm confused. Is butter good for me or not? I mean, if you think about it, I don't think anybody had any in the past. I don't think anybody had any what's the word? I'm trying to use big words. Screw it. I don't think anybody had any issue with kids drinking certain medications back in the 1930s and the 1920s, even though some of these medications had some seriously harmful chemicals in them. And in today's world, you wouldn't conceive of giving a child that type of medication, And so what's true now? might not be true in 10 years time, in 20 years time. They say now, no, screens are okay for us, it's fine. It's just blue light keeps us awake, it's a stimulus. And so, if you wanna have good sleep, then avoid blue light for the next, I don't know, 3 hours before you sleep. And that's what we're figuring out. But scientists are always discovering new things, and who knows what else will be discovered about how bad this stuff is. It wasn't long ago when vaping was like, this is better than smoking cigarettes. It's not as harmful to your body, only to find out now, like, people who do this vaping long term have some serious or at risk for some serious health effects. But that makes sense, man. Like, I just think people want to believe what they want to believe. I think, like, there must be thousands of chemicals in that stuff. So naturally, you being a human being and all of us being different and all of us responding and reacting to different chemicals at different levels, and what might be harmful for you might not necessarily be harmful for me. It's bound to affect people. There are people who are lifelong smokers of cigarettes who live up to the age of 80 or 90. And there are other people who, don't see 50 because, they get lung cancer or they get emphysema or, whatever, I don't know, whatever disease you get when you smoke too much cigarettes. But so it's like, what might happen to you might not. What might happen to you is not going to necessarily happen to me. But it really makes sense that, everything that you do too much of, and some stuff even just a little bit, is going to be bad for you. And we just don't know what we don't know. And that's just the human process. We've been figuring things out, who knows for how many years. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I don't know, like, and I blame this on TikTok again. I've really found myself going down a very, it's an interesting rabbit hole, the idea that civilization as we know it might not be the first advanced civilization that was on this earth before. And there's archaeological discoveries that people have made, and they're like, this is a sculpture that was made by human beings, and here's a person in the sculpture, and here's a dinosaur in the sculpture. So yeah, you're like, whoa, like you really think, like, geez, like, how can that be? But it's obviously speculation. You can't just see that and be like, no, they thought they were dinosaurs, because there's a lot of human beings right now that are able to create images of things that don't exist, and it could just be coincidence that it was just some artist who was like, I'm gonna make a funny looking animal, and it just so happens that to us, because we know about dinosaurs, or rather we think we know about dinosaurs, because, like I said, we don't know what we don't know. And then you have a look at these images, and for us as modern humans, we're like, oh, that's a dinosaur and that's a person, so maybe, and then we just sort of we jump to a conclusion. But it's still interesting to consider. It's a fun thing to think. There's a lot of researchers and archaeologists and other scientists, and there's all funny names for scientists and things, different scientific fields. But there's a lot of them that find, and by the way, it's not the industry consensus. It's just a few scientists who have found some weird stuff, and they are saying, like, there's evidence of a even older civilization that's buried underneath this old civilization. Like some of the oldest cities in the world, they found evidence of structures before that, and you already think, okay, but this structure was one of the earliest structures ever constructed. How can it be that there are structures that are thousands of years older than this one even, and that's why I say we don't know what we don't know. I think we make conclusions very easily And evidence to that is even how people look at dinosaurs, like artists' impressions of dinosaurs. I saw some pictures online of how, if you take like the skeleton of a cow, and you give those artists who draw like dinosaurs, who try to imagine what dinosaurs might have looked like based on their skeleton, and it comes out a vastly different creature than what you thought it was, and it's like it doesn't even look like a cow when you look at it, so you can imagine the idea behind that is that maybe we have no idea how the dinosaurs look. Maybe we have a good idea, but we only know from the very rare discoveries that were made. A very few amount of fossil remains have been discovered, And the Earth is a big place, Who knows? Maybe there's a lot of evidence on the ground, but how do you even begin to know where to look? And I just think that there's so much that's undiscovered, there's so much that's unknown. We couldn't possibly just draw conclusions from the little that we do know. That might be premature. It might take us another few thousand years to actually get the full truth about the history of the Earth and the history of humanity. Because even now scientists will say, but there's no, like the technology we have now, in a million years, you will not find any evidence of this technology. Like let's say a million years after human beings have vanished off the face of the planet, let's say we messed up this planet bad enough that we're all like, we have to leave here. We have to leave this planet and go find a new planet to screw up. And if we do that, then the technology we leave behind will degrade to the point where there will be no preserved evidence of us being here. So with that being said, it's like you might as well think, but then there could have been technology that we can't conceive of, that might have existed before the evidence that we have already, the structures that we've seen, like the pyramids and like Göbekli Tepe in where is Göbekli Tepe? I think it's in Turkey. Or like Jericho. Those are some of the oldest structures ever, And then they find older structures like in Indonesia, and they find even older structures in other parts of Africa, like in Ethiopia and in Somalia. Like, we just don't know what we don't know, And like one thing that was super interesting for me is like Machu Picchu in Peru. There are these huge stone blocks, and that's a place I'd love to go to one day. Honestly, that's really on the list. But there are these huge stones that have been put together, and they are so perfectly cut. You cannot fit your finger in that space. Like water can't even pass through there, And that's like high up in a mountain, and you just think, how was this even possible? And then you get these guys who are like, oh no, aliens helped with everything. And I laugh because it's a strange theory if you think about it. Like maybe for a lot of people who have access to the internet might think, nah, but it's plausible. And yes, it is plausible, but I still think that's one explanation that's possible. Let's explore the other explanations. Let's not just accept what a few group of people have to say. Let us question what they have to say so that we can come up with the actual truth of things. But I'm rambling. I can feel it. So I don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists that are like, you have to believe it. It has to, we don't know enough. I just don't think we know enough. And there might be truth that's hidden from us intentionally, and maybe there's a good reason for it. Maybe it's not even people hiding this stuff from us. Maybe they are aliens. Maybe they do control the world. Or maybe they don't. Maybe no one's in control. And that's what it kind of seems to me, man. There's no government in the world that people are not complaining about. There are governments that have the least amount of complaints, like in I don't know, Denmark and Sweden and those beautiful places, and they are beautiful places. But they have their own problems, you know. So to think that the government is so well organized that it's hiding this information and that information, like, it doesn't really fit, man. Governments are not the most organized, institutions. As much as they try to be, I think every government maybe has bitten off way too much than they can chew, you know. And maybe our system of government that we have throughout the world, these current systems of government, need to be revised and relooked. Again, I say we cannot accept everything that we receive from, we cannot just accept everything that happens and be like, oh, okay, that's how government works. We just do this and we do this, and we might not be able to do this, but we can try, and then, let's just see what happens. Like, what about going back to the drawing board? What about considering alternative directions and solutions, But these things are too complicated for people, and I don't want to judge people for not being able to handle complicated things. Because I think life is complicated in and of itself, and now, if you don't have control over your life, like full control over your life, which I don't think is necessarily possible, but I do think it's a worthwhile striving. I really do think it's a worthwhile striving. But if you don't have control over your own life, if you don't have your ducks in a row, so to speak, then maybe you don't have a right to be, in charge of the local government, or in charge of the provincial government, or in charge of the country, Like, what makes you so special? If you don't have your life together, then why should we vote for you to be, in power? But then, with that being said, it's like, why do we need anybody, man? Maybe we need to just make everything a bit smaller. Maybe we don't need a country of 60 million people. Maybe we need 4 or 5 different countries with less people in them. Maybe everything just needs to be split up into a manageable size. And I understand that's the point of local government and provincial government, but let's face it, it's completely screwed. And I think if we continue to ignore that fact, nothing will ever change. I think the first thing that we all have to realize when it comes to changing, even if we're looking at ourselves personally, is firstly admitting that there is a problem. And if I'm not mistaken, I think, when it comes to is it Addicts Anonymous or the 12-step program, I think the first step is admittance. You have to admit that I have a problem. But if you deny your own issues, there's not going to be a solution, because there's no space made for a solution to be found. Wow, I'm talking so much like my mouth is actually like starting to trip. Well, that's interesting. Anyways, I've actually written some things down here. I went on such a tangent I didn't even notice. Just some things with the help of ChatGPT, of course. It's a very interesting software that I like to play around with. I've actually asked this thing to write a sermon. I was like, please write a sermon based on Psalm 23, and I really wrote the most beautiful sermon. You're like, that's uncanny, man. That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, and then it's like, what's stopping bad preachers from using that as a sermon for their congregation, because it might help them, Or what's stopping a bad author or a bad writer, someone who really sucks at writing, who has no talent whatsoever? And in writing, we all have talents. I just think that sometimes we think this is our talent because we think we're interested in this, but our talent actually lies somewhere else, and we're not fully aware. And even if we are aware, we're not fully willing to take that chance, And I speak as a musician from that perspective, because it's like, everybody told me, dude, being a musician is not going to work out for you. And I'll be honest, up until this point, I don't think it has worked out for me. But I think it will. And I think you just have to persevere. If you truly believe in your dream, and you are willing to make all the sacrifices necessary, to make that a success, I believe that you will achieve it. But anyways, where was I? Yeah, so I was thinking, what would prevent a really poor writer from coming up with a nice idea with the help of ChatGPT, you know? But then again, it's like, if you're a bad writer, you're not exactly gonna be able to identify what a good idea might even look like. You know, if it's not within your sphere of ability, then you're really taking a shot in the dark. But these technologies are actually gonna increase in their ability, in their power. It's like ChatGPT right now it's ChatGPT 3.5, and I'm guessing that's the 3.5 edition of this software, which is already so impressive. So who knows what it'll look like in 5 to 10 years, and 5 years is a long time for technology. If you think about it, like, that's super long term. Technology is constantly improving, and now that we have AI that can be focused on that is a bit scary. We need to slow down. I can't remember what quote this was, but there was a quote that said that, we might have the ability to improve technology at a ridiculous rate, but we definitely don't have the maturity to understand or to use it in a responsible way. And I think this was said in the 40s when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end World War II. It's like we don't have the maturity as human beings to understand the destructive nature of the technologies that we are so enthusiastically developing. So I think that is a weapon of mass destruction, and obviously that's dangerous, but I think there are dangers to the current technology that we're busy with. And maybe even while I'm filming this video, there's AI listening to me right now and calculating and figuring out how to improve its algorithm or whatever. But anyways, so I had ChatGPT just suggest some things to speak about. Share a personal story. Nope, not today. You can get a story next time, because I only have like 13 minutes left. I really want to put this into an hour, and I'd like to see if there will be some viewers that are interested. Not that I expect any, and I'm only telling myself that because I don't want to hype myself up and get all freaked out, get in my head and get anxious about, I need to give the people a good product. Like, screw it. I don't worry about that. I'm just being myself, and I know that this will improve, and I actually would like people to see the improved product. But if you're watching, listening, like I said, and you have constructive feedback, very important term there, then please develop, help me develop this thing, let it grow into something beautiful and something more than what I ever could have imagined it to be, because that is actually the creative process, is when you involve yourself in an endeavor without exactly knowing where this is going, but exploring and eventually finding that out. And that is what makes the creative process so worthwhile. That's what makes for me music so interesting, because if you look at music as a whole, it was just people creating. People discovered sounds that seem to go well together a long time ago, and we've been just developing that ever since, and it's become more and more complex over time. At times it's been made simpler, because not everyone is a musician, so not everybody's taste is going to match the sophistication that musicians will want and expect, because the musician has evolved over time. The meaning of that word has evolved over time, and that also means the listener has evolved over time and devolved in some places. Back in the day, let's say this is in the classical era, I guess this is from the late 1700s going into the 1800s. That period was a time, I'm sure, that the music of the day was just, we're going to go to the concert hall, there's going to be an orchestra, Beethoven is performed the new symphony, or composed the new symphony, and now we're going to go watch it, and that's exciting, and for some musicians even, that's appealing, and for other musicians it's not appealing. So I think a lot of musicians make the mistake of looking down on people's tastes, and simply because your taste doesn't match someone else's taste does not mean that their taste is less sophisticated, or their taste is less that their taste is less than yours. It doesn't mean that. There's people that like fine dining, and those same people might like to eat a messy burger and chips, and some people don't like fine dining, but they like burgers and chips. Some people like fine dining, but hate burgers and chips. It's like, we all have different tastes. So there's no need to be condescending about that. And I say this because I think I used to be one of those people that enjoys classical music. I love listening to orchestras and choirs and organs, like organists performing music, and pianists and, soloists of every kind. But especially jazz, and this is actually where I was going with this. What a ride my self-conversation is to me. I don't know if you feel that way, but like jazz for me is the ultimate creative expression, especially when it comes to improvisation. Because yes, a piece has been composed beforehand, and there's been a general set of limitations that foster creativity, but the creativity that comes out of that during a phase of improvisation in a piece of music is absolutely incredible, and it's a wonder. It truly is a wonder, because you can't just play any notes you want, but for some reason you can play notes at a blistering pace and still have those notes, that set of notes, fit perfectly into a time and a place within that music, wherever you played that section. And I don't know if I'm making sense to the non-musician, but if you're not a musician, there's no shame in it. You do what you want to do, pursue what you want to pursue. This is just what I've chosen to pursue. But the beauty of creative expression is just that you don't know where it's going to end up, and I think that's maybe what I like about doing this. I think that was the appeal for me, especially in the beginning, is like, I know where I kind of wanted, the direction that I want to go in, and that's just me exploring my thoughts and my feelings. We haven't even gotten into some of my feelings, to be honest, but it's not necessary. I think we're almost wrapping up this episode, and I say we, but it's really just me, because like I said, like my direction is, I would like to eventually have a producer and sit in a studio. Like, this is my bedroom, this is my bedroom, this is not a studio. You can hear the traffic outside. If one of my siblings walks past here and decides to make a noise, or someone's boiling the kettle, or someone's dancing and singing spontaneously, that's going to be heard, and you know what, that's fine. Like I said, I'm not going to overthink this, but the idea of creative expression is, yes, you have a good idea of the direction, but it's an awesome experience to just go forward and find out where we're going to end up. Because I didn't know, to be honest, where we are right now. Did not think we'd be here. I didn't even think that I'd make it past 10 minutes of speaking, And I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to you. If you're listening, I'm talking to you. And honestly, it feels liberating. Yeah, now we're getting to feeling. It feels liberating. There are some stuff that I still wanted to talk about. I guess I have to kind of structure this thing a bit better. If I'm looking at constructive feedback for myself, I think I'll have to have a nice structure going, but also still keep it loose and spontaneous. I don't want everything to be planned and scripted. I think that's why nobody likes the news. The news is totally scripted, Wouldn't it be cool, if the news reporter or the news reader, whoever's what do they call that person? The one that sits in the studio and says, "Oh, it's terrible. This place is being destroyed and people are dying and the world is ending." That person. the news anchor. Why do they call it the anchor? I don't know. But the news anchor or the news reader. I guess he's reading the news because there's probably like a teleprompter that he's reading from. And you can tell, it's like he's not really looking at the camera, but you can see the camera is like right next to the thing, the teleprompter. But that person is just reading it. Wouldn't it be wild if that person had to read a story that was totally unprepared and it's something bizarre, like something wild, like, oh, the US president has had a public meeting with the aliens of another world. And then imagine his reaction, like, I think that would be cool. Then news, if you want people to watch you, you should try something like that. Make the people read, obviously real stuff, first of all, because apparently the news lies. You can watch the news and they can literally lie. They can literally give you a report that is false. Like, not that it's no, we don't know yet. No, it's like we know this isn't true, but we are going to tell you anyways. And that's just because these news companies, these news broadcasters, they get most of their revenue from advertisements. So if they sensationalize everything and they try and draw as much attention, taking advantage of the negativity bias that we have as human beings, then it means that they get more money because there are more eyeballs on the ads that play when the news is not on, when there's like a commercial break. And that's the whole business model. Is that they're sensationalizing everything so that they can have more eyeballs to make more money from advertisers. And I think a lot of news outlets have crossed the line in that they're not going to tell you the truth anymore. Maybe they'll take a little bit of truth but then blow it so out of proportion to make it seem so much worse than what it is that you end up with so much anxiety just watching it, not knowing that these people are just doing this because they're taking advantage of the fact that us as human beings like to watch negative stuff. That's the biggest thing, is and it's actually an evolutionary concept. We as human beings have evolved to keep an eye out for danger, to keep an eye out for anything that means bad, whether it's like just think about when humans still lived in caves before they were able to design and build structures. You'd have to really keep your eyes peeled and your ears open for a predator. Or if lightning strikes the dry felt, there's going to be a fire and you might be trapped now and then you suffocate and die or you burn to death, Or, okay, I cut myself and I'm bleeding, I need to do something about that. That's why the color red is so eye-catching. It's no coincidence. It's not just that, red is the color that... No, the reason why red is the color that attracts our attention the most is just because we've evolved to know that red means danger. Red means danger, and that's where the biggest part of our attention will go to whatever's dangerous. And it makes sense. If you hear a gunshot, you're not going to look at where the gunshot comes from. You're just going to run. And if anyways, I'm not going to go too much into that because I'm running out of time. But where was I going with this? But anyways, yeah. So the news really takes advantage of that. But with that being said, I still want to cover some news because there's some stuff that I see, just reading the news or scrolling through Twitter or X as it's now called. There's some news that's like, that's insane. It's just wild. So in future episodes, I'd like to cover some stuff about the news. Let's see what else we got here. It says review a book or a movie or a TV show. Let's see. What have I watched recently? I watched 2 movies last weekend, not this past weekend. Last weekend I watched 2 movies. The first one was on the list of 100 movies to watch before you die. Because I'm very interested in film, It would be so cool to be on a film set and see how everything works, That would be a really interesting thing for me. And I wouldn't mind eventually getting to produce films because I have a lot of crazy and stupid ideas, but I think a crazy or stupid idea is still an idea. And I think if the right people take a crazy or a stupid idea and know what to do with it, it can become something brilliant, you know? Like, oh yeah, so I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, and that was a cool movie. I think it was made in the 80s, but awesome movie, really awesome, good action. The storyline was great. I think that's the first Indiana Jones movie, if I'm not mistaken. There have been a lot since then, but that's the one that was on the list. And George Lucas and Steven Spielberg worked together on that. Two of the greatest filmmakers in history got together to make that movie. And it was an absolute masterpiece. It's just, it really kept you engaged the whole time. So I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but it's basically just this archaeologist who keeps on getting screwed over by the Germans. This is, again, a time... The movie's set, I think, in the 1930s or the 1940s, even though it was made and produced in the 80s, but the whole thing is like this nice... The enemy of the day is the Nazis, the Germans, because it wasn't long before that. It wasn't long... after the time that the movie set in that World War II kicks off. But anyways, so then Indiana Jones, who's the main character, played by Harrison Ford, he is he's an archaeologist that, and really like not the archaeologist you'd expect. It's not this thick guy with a beard, old man, and he's, dusting things off. Like, he's literally like this good-looking, fit, strong guy, and he's an explorer. He's fighting, wild animals, and he's running away from traps. Like, there's this huge boulders that are chasing him, and he's running around and all of that, and he's punching Nazis, and he's shooting them, and he's chasing trucks, and he's hanging off the side of a moving vehicle. It's pretty extreme. And I think that's just a cool picture to paint of an archaeologist, because normally that's not what an archaeologist is. An archaeologist is just someone who digs and finds stuff, I guess. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. It's fine. But yeah, so that was a solid movie. And the Lost Ark, meaning the Ark of the Covenant from the Bible. Dude, from the Bible. And they find this thing, and it just causes all kinds of problems. But and that's what you want in a movie. You want a movie to start off introducing characters, the characters having a call to adventure, which is like, Indiana, this could be the Covenant, and for him it's like every archaeologist wants to discover this thing. So then they do discover it, but then it causes problems. So that's the part in the movies. And you'll see this in most movies. There's a call to adventure. The adventure starts and it doesn't go great. But that's part of the adventure. And that's the beauty of life in general. I'm not to philosophize, but that's just the beauty of life in general, is that there is an adventure, and if you respond to the call, it's not going to go great at first. You will have to overcome adversity. But once you do, that's when you get to the end of the movie where you are victorious. And maybe there'll be a plot twist at the end where it's not as sweet a victory as you would like, and that's a great thing for the audience as well, because now it's not just this happily ever after cliche, and that movie also ended with that sentiment. So it's like, that's cool. And then the other movie I watched was Ford versus Ferrari. Now, I'm a huge fan of motorsport and cars in general. As you can see, I don't know how many Hot Wheels here in my collection. I don't know, 30 something. But I'm a huge fan of cars, and that movie was brilliant. Characters like what's this guy's name? Carroll Shelby, who's who made history by developing the GT40, the Ford GT40, to participate in Le Mans, which is a 24-hour endurance race in France every year. Obviously, that's changed in a big way, but it's still, the movie's incredible. And it follows Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby working together to develop this car. And this is a piece of history. It's a historical film. It's not a documentary, but it might as well be, because it really portrayed everyone so well. And Matt Damon plays Carol Shelby, and what's this guy's name? Christian Bale plays Ken Miles, who's this mad, just doesn't have a care in the world for what he says to people. Like, he just will get into a fight over nothing, and that's just that racing blood that some people have. It's like, I will win no matter what. I'll win everything, whether it comes to a fight or an argument or a race, anything. It's just that competitive spirit, and you need that to be a true winner, But yeah, so they participate in Le Mans, and history knows what happened there. And at the end of the movie, it's a really sad events take place. So it's like you have this huge up and down feeling the whole movie through. You're buzzing. That's how that was my experience. It was just buzzing the whole time because there was so much excitement building. This is going. And then there are some disappointments, and because it's not a fictional story, it is a real story, it hits even deeper because you're like, wow, so this actually happened, and yeah, I was just thinking about it for days, to be honest. But I do enjoy movies about cars and about racing, or rather, if there are cars and racing in a movie, then I enjoy it. That's why I enjoy the Fast and Furious movies. But those last few, come on, they got a bit far-fetched. Let's see, book review. Let's see. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and that's the author. It says the subtitle, I guess, is "Think Rich to Get Rich," and it really is a great book. It really is. I think it's probably one of the most important books I've read so far. That's really saying something. But at some point I'll show you like the books that I've read. But this book really gets into the mindset of millionaires. It really gets into the way that millionaires think compared to the way that the middle and the poor class, how they think, and it's not any sort of judgment, so there's nothing judgy about it. It's literally just how it is that some people think a certain way, and that mindset results in poverty or in just being average or slightly below average. And then there's other people who think in a way that leads to wealth, insane wealth for some. And the book is just a comparison between those two mindsets. It's very interesting to get into the psychology of how rich people think and how poor people think. And a lot of it really just boils down to the fact that your decisions come from your mindset, how your thoughts are set up, the natural paths your thoughts go towards that you form over time. Maybe it's through your upbringing, and that's part of your conditioning. Maybe it's, in your adult life, you've just had a certain set of experiences that have led you to think in certain ways. But without being aware of those certain ways of thinking, you cannot change those ways of thinking. Again, we come a bit full circle to admittance. If you can't admit that there's a problem, you can never fix the problem. So the book really guides you through the process of overcoming a lot of your own personal biases when it comes to money. A lot of people think, money, rich people are bad people. Now, anyone that says that is normally someone who's not sitting with a lot of money. And it's, and who knows what their motivations might be for saying that or believing that. But it's definitely not a path to wealth, because if you feel that way, then you're not going to create any sort of desire that's strong enough for you to take the action necessary to create wealth. Because in your head, money equal bad, and that's just one of the examples. But it's a great book. It's really a interesting deep dive into the psychology of the wealth. And I think whether you're doing well financially or not doing well financially, I would highly recommend that you read this book, because it's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener. There are some things that there are some ways that you think that you don't even realize are damaging towards your ability to create an income. And only once you confront that will you be able to actually get to that point of being free of those thoughts and being on your way to financial freedom, you know, to being where you want to be financially, wherever that may be. Maybe you just want to be out of the current hole you're sitting in. Maybe you want a outrageous amount of money. But whatever your goal might be, I think this book is extremely helpful for that, and it's definitely put me on a path towards financial. I guess the first place I need to be is financial. What's the word? When you're making an income, because right now I don't have an income. You know, I think this past year or so has been a very difficult one for me. I've been unemployed and really concerned for my mother, who's been quite sick during this past year. She ended up passing away in late November, and that was a very rough time for us as a family. You know, she was 47. She was going to be 48 this Thursday, actually the 8th. And yeah, so she passed away. And, and now today I went for an interview, a job interview today that looks promising. And if I get this, it's like, her one thing has been that she wants me and my brother to, have an income, to find a job. And now that this is happening, it's like she's no longer here, and I guess it's a bit sad, and that's just the feelings that I'm sitting with right now. Is that I know she would have been proud. And it sucks that she's not around to experience the joy and the pride that would come with your son, watching your son struggle and wrestle with God and pray constantly and apply and try this strategy and try that strategy, do trading, make a podcast, make some content, be a musician on the internet, just in an attempt to create opportunities, and those opportunities convert into financial capital. But sorry to bring it down, I didn't mean to do that, but I'm quite excited. Apparently I will hear either this afternoon or later tomorrow whether I have this job or not, so I really hope I do get it. It's an organist position, so one of the instruments that I play, I don't play many, but I play more than one for sure. If I can get this job, then I will, for the first time, have a job where I just get to play music. And I've never had that before. I've never been paid to just do music, It's been my life since I was 7 years old. It's what I've done my whole life. And now being 27 years old, it's like, finally this might pay off. And if it does, then I strongly believe that, or my desire is that it'll open more and more doors for me as a musician to have more opportunities. And that's what's going on in my life, Okay, I told myself I'll go an hour, but I'm already looking at the time, it's 13 minutes over. But I don't care, it's fine. There's still some stuff that I would like to discuss and to talk about. The main thing is also that, I wanted to speak about church. Yesterday was church. Today is Monday. It's Monday, as I said, it's Monday the 5th of February 2024. And I want to try and make these podcasts every Monday. Every Monday I want to put one on. But yeah, yesterday was church, and I can't remember what the Bible verse or what the actual scripture was, but it was Jesus answered, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And every time you hear in a service those words, there's a different meaning attached to this. And yesterday it was just breaking down those three words. Way. How is Jesus the way? And then it's like, okay, Jesus' way was a certain way. Jesus' path. He took a certain path in life that led him ultimately to the cross, to die for our sins. To be the Redeemer, to be the Savior of mankind, and he had to give his life to do that. So what is our way then? Since we claim to be Christians, our goal is to be like Christ, and in order to be like him, we have to do as he did. So how do we translate that into our time, as modern humans? We're not gonna physically get beaten, and walk up a hill and get crucified there. That's not what's gonna happen. But if you take that and you move it spiritually, then it becomes such a deep thing, because at the end of the day we all have burdens, and if you think about it, Jesus Christ's burden was mankind, the sin of mankind. He had to carry that. And so what burden are you carrying? What burden are you carrying that's worthwhile? Not for you, but for others. And would it be the worst thing in the world for you to carry your burden? Would it be the worst thing in the world for you to walk up that hill with your burden? Would it be the worst thing in the world if part of you, the parts you don't need anymore, if those parts die on that hill? And when you come back down, when you are resurrected, let's say, you are free of those parts of you that you don't need anymore. And then you can ascend into a higher state of being. You can be happier. You can be more at peace in your life. Who knows how much baggage you're carrying around? Who knows how much you're dealing with? Who knows how much you're struggling with? And if you continue to shoulder that responsibility, but facing it, not just being burdened by it, literally consciously deciding, I will carry this burden, and you carry that up the hill. And like I said, when we walked up Naval Hill, it's not the same as walking straight. There's an incline. There are athletes training on some of those inclines. It's not easy. And you take that burden, you take it up that hill, and that is the transformative power of following Christ's example. There's a lot of people who make fun of Christianity and look down and undermine Christianity, but the truth of the matter is that, without taking things literally, how about taking things spiritual? How about taking things in a more metaphorical sense, so that it can help you sort out whatever's going on in here or in here? Because if you're going to take everything literally and you're going to be like, that's impossible because I am, then you're missing the point. You are missing the point. And I think if you continue to go forward with the idea that I am voluntarily carrying this burden, and I will use this burden to help me get rid of everything that I don't need, everything that's holding me back from growing, everything that's tying me down and keeping me in bondage. If I can use that and develop some strength, because you do develop some strength, carrying a burden, that's the whole idea of weightlifting, and if you get to that point eventually of reaching that objective, reaching the top of the hill, then you've been transformed. Then all the parts of you that you didn't need for that process die. Maybe you needed it for that process, but you don't need it for the next part of the process. That dies. And now there's a new you, a new version of you, a changed version of you. Maybe not everything is dead, but there's definitely a lot that's dead, and a lot of space is now created for new things to grow within you. And then when you come down from that hill, you're a transformed person, and that is exactly what Christ was. He died and he was resurrected, and he became a whole different person. He got his glorified body, and that's the glorified body that God said, yes, you come now, you come to heaven, you ascend. So it's not that his soul ascended, his body ascended. So there was parts of him that needed to die first. There was an objective that he needed to achieve before he could be found worthy to enter the kingdom of heaven. So take that how you want to take that, but I think that's a beautiful thing. And if we really want to take it seriously as believers, then that's what I believe we need to do. We need to take that responsibility, shoulder it, and move up. Move up. Make it so that it's difficult, because it must be difficult. Otherwise it's not a burden, and it's not going to grow you. It's not going to change you. Look at bodybuilders. Those people, and I'm not talking just about those huge, jacked monsters like Hulk and those. I'm not talking about those guys. I just mean like, you end up with a healthy body. So if you shoulder your responsibilities and you walk up that hill, you end up with a healthy soul. And sometimes that process is what helps us to have all these illnesses that we're sitting within our soul, getting rid of that so that we can have a new soul, so that we can have a fresh one, so that we can be redeemed and be renewed. And that's that process. So if we are saying Jesus is the way, then that's the process we follow, because if we do that, we will be changed for the better. And that is all that God wants us to be, is to be better. Better for ourselves and better for each other. And then we move on to the way, the truth. This one is a bit more tricky for me. I'm also not that good at paying attention, to be honest, in church. Or anywhere for that matter. Let's just put it this way. If I have to sit still, I'm not paying attention, and you've seen that, you've been a witness to that, because I have been all over the place with what I'm saying. I think that's going to be the name of the show. All over the place. Because I am all over the place. You see, you figure things out on the way. Anyways, I'm really chuffed with myself about that. But anyways, with Christ being the truth, is that He was the Word. If you think about it, I don't know, it's at the beginning of Matthew or Mark or Luke or John, I'm not sure. But it says, in the beginning there was the Word. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So that's as metaphorical statement as you'll ever see. And there's many ways you could interpret that, but for me, it just means that that's the Word. That's the Word. That's what's written in the Bible. Those are words. And it might not be physical truth. Some might be physical truth, some might not be. We weren't there, we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. But what we do know is that there is meaning here in these words. And when He says that I am the truth, it means that the teaching of Jesus Christ is the true teaching. Why is it the true teaching? Because it does not benefit anybody except for the better. It doesn't take advantage. Let's put it that way, actually. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't take advantage of anybody. There might be bad agents in the world who will take God's word and use it as to take advantage of people. To try and there's a lot of preachers and there's a lot of, let's just call them bad characters. There's a lot of bad characters out here who use God's word to take advantage, in many ways, to take advantage of people's wallets, to take advantage of people's innocence, to take advantage of people's hope. And if you ask me, man, that's evil. That is evil, But the word itself, in its pure form, does not take advantage. It does not deceive. It is open for the world to see. It doesn't need to be hidden. It needs to be shared. In fact, it's encouraged to be shared. So if there were a lie in here, it's like, no, I know this is not true. I know this is meant to harm and deceive and to take advantage. Just now people find that out. I don't want it to be shared. No, it was encouraged to be shared. Christ is the truth. And he is as true person as you'll ever find, true God and true man. God had to come on this earth to experience what it's like to be a human being, to experience pain, to experience hunger. So he saw the truth from our perspective, but he knows the truth as well, and he shared it with us. And the truth of the matter is that we must love each other, because that is the true power in the world, is love. I think the reason why it's devastating and terrible to see war take place, to see how people are suffering, to see disease running rampant in places, to see a natural disaster just wipe out a whole city. It's devastating. And the reason why it's devastating is because there's no sense of love there. There's no sense of closeness or connection. Those things, yes, those things do facilitate that type of thing. But when there's harmony, when there's peace, at the foundation of all of that is love. And if we say Christ is the truth, then it means that we need to put love at the center of everything we do, everything that we say, and everything that we think. And we need to tell ourselves, listen, if this is not loving, then what am I doing? If this is not good for me, if it's not good for the people around me, then what am I doing? And then we move on to the way, the truth, and the life. Christ is the life. So that one for me is quite simple. And Christ has said it so many times, the apostles have said it so many times, that he died for us so that we can live for him. He died for us so that we can live for him. And that's the beauty of it. That's as simple as it can be. I don't know, I don't want to quote too many scriptures, but I don't even know where it's written in, to be honest. But it's irrelevant. The words are relevant. And the words say that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will have eternal life. So there we go. Christ is the life as well. So yeah, that was church. And it's such a nice feeling to walk into church. I look forward to Sundays maybe more than any other day, because it's a chance to be peaceful. It's a chance for life not to be about what I want. It's a chance for me not to be concerned with my objectives and my opinions and my thoughts. It's just to relax and just to open my heart and open my ears and open my eyes, and to meditate on matters of the Lord. And I think if that's our goal, our goal is to eventually be found worthy on the day when God sends his Son. And if that's the goal, then we need to take every opportunity to receive that word of God, because a part of that word is going to be a part that completes us a little bit. And every time we receive just a little bit more, another drop in the bucket, and that will help us to get closer to God. And if in our lifetime he decides to send his Son, then we can all go home with him, because we've been taking that and adding it every time. It must have a cumulative effect. And if you look at old people, and not the grumpy old people, I'm talking about the old people who are loving, the old people who have a lot of wisdom to share. Those are the ones that seem to be closer to God than anything, that seem to have that spiritual connection, that seem to have this relationship with God that does not compare to anybody else. But yeah, I think I'm going to end here. It's about an hour and a half in. So there we have it, everybody. We don't know what we don't know. That's the one conclusion that I've gotten from this. The other one is that we can't just take everything at face value. We must always look deeper. We must always question. And that's true for everything. But don't just remain a skeptic. Also learn to take that which is valuable for you, and learn to discard that which is not valuable for you. What else have we figured out today. Oh yeah, it's a good book to read. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Awesome book, really. Very, very much a mindset shift. So prepare yourself for that when you read that. Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's not news. That's just an awesome movie worth watching. And then Ford versus Ferrari. Also just awesome movie. But how do I want to end this? I guess I'm trying to see if I can. How can I end this thing off? Whatever. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, please do subscribe to the channel. There will be many more, whether you want it or not. There will be many more, and I hope that if you've listened to this point that you enjoyed it, and I hope I wasn't rambling too much or boring you. But yeah, this is the first episode basically wrapped up, and I guess I feel good about this. I feel that I'm experimenting, I'm learning. If you do have any constructive feedback, please do feel free to share that in the comments. I think what we'll do is, I say we, but it's just me. But I think what we'll do is, I will maybe have a sort of a WhatsApp that you could send voice notes to, just in response to something I've said. If something I said, sparks a thought within you, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So for now, you can put that in the comments, but I think I'll set up almost like a hotline type of thing where you can just leave a voice note. I think that'll be cool for the channel, just to hear the voices of people listening, or even a video. You can send a video, but if you're not comfortable with a video, send a voice note. But I'll drop that later on. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I feel good about what has just transpired, and I honestly can't wait for the next one. So be good to yourselves, and see you next week.